Well, good evening, Celebrate Recovery friends. I am a follower of Jesus recovering from an eating disorder, currently working on anger issues, and my name is Kriss.
Hey, Kriss.
It is my privilege to share tonight's lesson with you entitled Sponsor. I want to begin our time, as I often do, with a true short story. About a year after my husband and I got married, we were invited by some friends to go to a ball game. And I hadn't been since high school, and while I'm not a fan of spectator sports, we decided to go because we wanted to spend some time together. So off we went. I can't remember and tell you who they were playing, but I can tell you that immediately they were down about 4 runs in the first inning. There were a couple of these loud fans sitting near us, and they knew that they were losing, and this one guy yells out, "Don't worry, no problem. We got a secret weapon." And then the next inning, they were still down and still losing. "Don't worry, no problem. We got a secret weapon." And the mantra went on and on and on until the 7th inning. And finally it changed, and it was, "It's time to bring out the secret weapon. Bring out the secret weapon." It was 2003, and the Giants had this player. I don't know if anybody's heard Barry Bonds. Anyone? Right? At that time, I read that Barry had 17 years of experience. He was their strongest hitter, and later he went on to become the home run king. So he had strength, and he had the ability to give them hope of success, yet he was sitting on the bench. Barry had experience, strength, and hope, but he wasn't being utilized until finally in the 7th inning, the Giants decided to bring out their secret weapon. Tonight, we're going to explore why the sponsor is the secret weapon to success in our recovery. And the way that we're going to do that is by asking and answering these 5 questions. Why do I need a sponsor? What are the qualities of a sponsor? What does a sponsor do? How do I find a sponsor and an accountability partner? And what is the difference between a sponsor and an accountability partner? But first, our lesson preamble. Principle 4. Openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone I trust. Blessed are the pure in heart, Matthew 5:8. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord, Lamentations 3:40. If we're in recovery, I imagine that we've been accumulating wreckage since we've been on the planet. And now it's time to start the business of cleaning up that wreckage in steps 4 and 5. And for that, we're going to need a sponsor, a secret weapon. So our first question is, why do I need one? There's 3 reasons. There's more than 3 reasons. I'd like to offer 3 reasons. First, having a sponsor and an accountability partner is biblical. Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 12 tells us 2 are better than 1, for they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can he keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. God's plan for us is to work together. We know this about community. And in the Bible, there's about over 50 verses that use that phrase, one another. So that's about us interacting with one another. He wants that. And in the Bible, now they don't talk about sponsors, but they do have some similar relationships like disciples and apprenticeship. And some of these examples for a biblical mentor or mentee, or what we might call a sponsor and a sponsee, would be the Apostle Paul and Timothy, Naomi and Ruth, Moses and Joshua, and so on and so forth. Jesus had 12, but he spent most of his time with Peter, James, and John. And I don't have it up there, but in Titus, Paul tells the older women to mentor the younger women. So there's many examples in there. You can look those up. Accountability partners we've got: Apostle Paul and Barnabas, Apostle Paul and Peter, Joshua and Caleb, and David and Jonathan. Many examples. In the world, we also know that highly successful people have mentors. Mark Zuckerberg had a mentor. Oprah Winfrey had at least one. Winston Churchill, Billy Graham, Bill Gates. Successful people have mentors. One more example, my favorite. I love movies. I've said that here before. And The classic examples would be the Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi, Dumbledore and Harry and his trainer Rocky and his trainer Mickey. In Star Wars, we had the Mandalorian and Grogu. And each Jedi Knight has a master who teaches them their apprentice or mentors them in the ways of the Force. There's Qui-Gon Jinn and his Jedi apprentice Obi-Wan, Luke and Yoda, and Anakin and Obi-Wan. Wait a second, that's probably not the best example. He turns in Darth Vader and, yeah, we didn't need a sponsor anyway, okay. Yeah, that's probably not the best example when the apprentice murders the... Anyway, second reason why we need a sponsor and an accountability partner is that they are a key part of our program. I can remember when I first got into recovery, I just thought, I'm gonna come to large group, maybe I'll go to small group, maybe I'll get the book and I'll do the work on my own, just like I've always done everything. But I gotta admit, there was something inside of me, as I listened to people in open share, they talked about their sponsors. I would hear things like, well, my sponsor recommended this, or my sponsor doesn't think that that's a good idea for me. I don't know about you, but any latchkey feral kids, anybody grow up feral, right? So I didn't even have an adult that I felt like I could go to for help. And the sponsors that I had, they were the first adult women that invested in me without asking for anything back. It's true, they helped me with their experience and knowledge, but I truly believe that the relationship itself was one of the major things that helped me to heal from abandonment issues. They're a key part of our recovery. The third reason that they're necessary is that having a sponsor and an accountability partner is an effective guard against relapse. We know that connection with others is powerful. Opposite of addiction? Connection, right? Having a sponsor helps us to grow. Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man or one woman sharpens another. When we're in an active relationship with a sponsor, God is going to use them to sharpen and refine us. And sometimes it can become uncomfortable. I was looking online, and I'm like, so what does it really mean, iron sharpens iron? I was just kind of Googling, having some fun with Aunt Google, as my husband would say. And I read this sad quote. It said, too often what passes as fellowship this is on gotquestions.org. Too often what passes as fellowship in the modern church is centered on food and fun, not on sharpening one another with the word of God. In far too many instances, the only knives being sharpened are the ones at potlucks. It can be a lot easier to stay on the surface and not go deep because the forging process can be unpleasant. After being heated up until we're malleable enough to be shaped, we get placed on the anvil, and God, the master blacksmith, uses repeated blows with a hammer to take off the stuff in our life that's not helpful, because he's shaping us into something beautiful. I'd like to take a look at a short clip that demonstrates this. So we can see a little bit that sparks fly as the hammer or our sponsor or a trusted friend points out our blind spots and tells us the truth that we need to hear. But God is using them to call us up. I don't really like that term, call us out. I like call us up to what God is calling us towards. In a 2017 article in the Journal of Studies on Alcohol and Drugs, research showed that people get better outcomes in their recovery when they have a sponsor. Now, that could mean more, one of the things they found was more attendance, involvement in 12-step groups, better abstinence time over time. The study suggests, and I believe it's because we have someone in our life that empathizes with us, that listens to us, somebody to join us on our journey. We need a sponsor, and that helps us to prevent relapse. The second question tonight is, what are the qualities I'm looking for in a sponsor? Proverbs 25 says, the purposes of a man's heart are deep waters, but a man or a woman of understanding will draw them out. We want somebody that can draw out of us the things that we need to share. So I'm going to list off some things, and there could be a bigger list of this. There might be more things, but these are just some things I'd like you to consider if you're looking for a sponsor. And if you are currently a sponsor, then maybe you just want to hear them and just kind of evaluate your own sponsorship or your sponsoring. So is the person that you're considering a good listener? And are they empathetic? Can they sit with you in your pain? And can they speak to you in your pain? Do they have something that you admire or want? For example, a close relationship with Jesus and his word, a solid recovery, not a perfect recovery, but a solid recovery, peace in their life. One of the things I admire about my sponsor is she has a really sweet relationship with her husband. I would like that. Do they have a desire to help, not fix others? Are they strong enough to confront us in our procrastination or in our denial? Can they challenge us? One day I was having a conversation with my sponsor and she had to redirect it because I was getting into eating disorder talk. She had to redirect it, she drew a boundary, and I'm grateful for that. A sponsor needs to know they need to be a person of discernment. All right, here's some more. Do they share their own struggles as well as victories? Do they have their own sponsor, and are they working in recovery? I don't mean 20 or 30 years ago, but are they currently working their recovery? Are they trustworthy, not a gossip? This isn't going to work if you can't trust them. It's got to be somebody that you absolutely trust. Side note, there is no one person that can check all the boxes, but you're looking for, in general, can you trust them? Are they a follower of Jesus? Are they in the Word? Are they guided by God? Third question, what exactly does a sponsor do? Maybe you've been wondering that. They can discuss in detail things that meetings don't allow. Do you ever notice how a sitcom is about 30 minutes and there's always a problem and you get a solution within 30 minutes? Well, we only have about 3 minutes to share, so there's no way we're going to do that. That's something that a sponsor does. We can go over all those details. Number 2, they offer suggestions. They can help us out of our black and white or all or nothing thinking. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to my sponsor and I only see 2 ways out. I can do this or I can do this. And she'll say, well, what about a hybrid? What about, could you do a little bit of this and a little bit of this, something in between? Number 3, the sponsor models Christ's forgiveness and grace. There's a verse, I don't have it up there, but the word says that we're to comfort others with the same comfort that we ourselves have received from God. Our sponsors are people that have already walked before us. They've received God's forgiveness and grace, and they can model that to us. They can comfort us with the same comfort that they've been comforted with. Number 4, they serve as a sounding board by providing an objective point of view. So they can give us a sense of perspective. Has anybody ever lost perspective and you just needed a reality check? Right? That's what a sponsor is there for. You can call and just go, this happened. Can I just check this out with you? All right, obviously, number 5, they guide us through the steps. And 6, a sponsor can resign or they can be let go. I don't like the term fired, sorry, I like let go. I don't know why, but that's just my thing. However you'd like to think about it. But the point is, it's not a lifetime position. So here's some examples. My very first sponsor was a good friend of mine. I asked her to be my sponsor, and we had a falling out. It wasn't over 12-step stuff, it was over personal things. And so I lost a very good friend and my sponsor in the same day. And that was really difficult. We did get to make amends and we're still friends, so that's a good thing. My second sponsor, she had a lot of health issues, and at one point she had a heart attack. She is living, she's okay, but she was unavailable for me for a while. And then she moved out of state. Me as a sponsor, myself, well, somebody asked me to be their sponsor, and I was doing so-so, but I wasn't really in recovery. Maybe I had worked the 12 steps, but I didn't really know a lot about sponsoring. I was very green, and I said yes, because I didn't want to say no, because I was codependent. And I was in the throes, suddenly I found myself in the throes of an eating disorder, and she actually was questioning my mental health, and that's not a good thing. So I wasn't able to care for myself, so I definitely wasn't able to care for her. A couple of side notes. Our sponsors know if we're ghosting them. They can usually tell, they get to know us. If you spend time with your sponsor, they will get to know you. They know if we're in our addictions, our compulsive behaviors, and our negative thinking because they've been there. They recognize it. They know our moves. They can see our patterns. They know many times if we're not being honest. And that's a good thing if they know. Because if they know, they can help us. But they can't help us if we don't reach out. This is a really important thing. When I first got into recovery, I thought that the sponsor called me. I didn't understand that we call our sponsors. It's our responsibility to call our sponsors. So, phone home, ET. Fourth question tonight, how do I find a sponsor? All right, I'd like to offer some guidelines. Celebrate Recovery guidelines actually say that the person should be of the same sex, so enough said there. Number 2, can you relate to that person's story? Can you see their story in your story, and so on? It's best to pick somebody in the same area of recovery. Best. I'm not saying it can only be that way. There could be some caveats there we won't go into. I will tell you that I tried to sponsor a couple of people that asked me that were different areas of myself. And quite honestly, it was something I didn't struggle with, and so I actually got judgy. I was like, well, just don't go over there, or just don't do that thing, because this is a long time ago, I did not understand because I did not struggle with that thing. That is why it's really important that you struggle in the same area. They can understand. Also, I had a sponsor, one of my sponsors she did not have an eating disorder, so she was very helpful for things like low self-esteem and codependency issues, but she would sometimes accidentally say things that were triggering to my eating disorder without even knowing it, so that was kind of tough. So those are just some things that I wanted to share, some little pitfalls there. All right, number 3, where else can we find a sponsor? Come early to Friday night dinner and stay for Solid Rock. That's why we have these events, so that we can get to know each other. Sometimes in Open Share, there's not enough time to talk about those things. My husband and I, for about 10 years, we had a small group Bible study, a community group in our house. And we had this little saying. It was, come early, stay late. So I would recommend you come early and stay late. Number 4. This is really important. If you ask somebody to be your sponsor and they say no, please don't take it personally. It's hard to say that. I understand it's a vulnerable thing, but I want to share my story. Emily is my sponsor, and many years ago, I asked her to be my sponsor, and she said no. And you guys want to know the reason that she told me? What a pathetic excuse. She was raising twins. I mean, like, she didn't need a triplet, you know? I mean, yeah, she was a little bit busy. But I asked her years after I lost my other sponsor, I asked, and the second time she said yes. So there are many reasons why somebody might not be able to be your sponsor. It's not a personal thing. It might sound a little bit scary and vulnerable, especially if you struggle with abandonment and rejection issues, but if you've already made it in this room, that's like half the battle. So go ahead and take a risk. It is a little bit scary, but just ask somebody. A couple of other side notes. If you're not sure that that person is the right fit, it's kind of like kicking the tires when you're looking for a car. I mean, don't kick your sponsor, but give it a go. Ask them, could we do this temporarily and just see if this is a fit? And you can see how it goes before you decide to make it permanent. Remember, not a lifetime commitment. You know, sometimes we need to get a new sponsor. I remember Tim was teaching on 7 reasons we get stuck, and one of the things that he said that was really helpful for me, he said, if something's not working for you, I think he was specifically talking about sponsor, mine is working, just side note, but he was saying if something's not working, don't be afraid to change it. And I feel like that's really good advice for many things, but especially for a sponsor for some reason, unless it's just that you don't want to do what they're suggesting because, right, figure that one out. Okay, other places to look, outside meetings. So I brought this with me because I always talk about it when I'm doing announcements. This sheet is in the back. It's all the Christ that we know of, the Christ-centered recovery groups in Santa Cruz County. If you can't find a sponsor here, maybe there's not someone that struggles in your area, go to an outside meeting. There's lots of believers at other places. And also outside meetings that are not Christ-centered. One of my accountability partners that I met, that's a very good accountability partner I met in Eating Disorders Anonymous. So there, I listened, I heard her speak, and I was like, oh, I think she's a believer. And then I found out that she was. So they exist out there. Think about it, I was there, right? So we're out there. Okay, super important. I've been talking about how to find a sponsor, but side note on sponsoring itself. If you've worked the 12 steps and the principles, you've gone through a step study, you worked with a sponsor and all of that, you're eligible to be a sponsor. One of my favorite movies is Return of the Jedi. And as Yoda lay dying, Master Yoda told his apprentice Luke, Luke, pass on what you have learned. If we've been sponsored and then we sponsor others, we create a whole legacy of recovery. I can look out here and I can see that this person has sponsored this person and this sponsor has sponsored another person and so on. We create a legacy. So if somebody asks you, please consider it, pray about it. Or as Tim would say, talk to your sponsor about it. Get feedback from them, see what they think. All right, the fifth and final question tonight is, what's the difference between a sponsor and an accountability partner? I know on the sheets that we gave you, there's some things there. I didn't write those, so there's some stuff there. I might have a couple of other things to say. But difference between a sponsor and an accountability buddy. That is not a typo, an accountability buddy, all right? Sponsor is someone who has worked the 12 steps. It's important because they can only guide you where they've been. An accountability partner, on the other hand, they can be at the same level of recovery. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where. You don't have to be equal or anything like that. Anybody, any guy can be a foxhole bro, and any woman can be a beaches, wind beneath my wings sort of support person for the ladies. A sponsor can have the same area of recovery. An accountability partner can have a different area of recovery. The sponsor acts as a coach. They model recovery. They root for you. They offer suggestions. The accountability partner acts as a teammate. They encourage you. You can go to meetings together. There's lots of things that accountability partners can do. So I know that in outside meetings, I know a lot of times I've been to ones I've never heard them talk about accountability partners, but we talk about that here in Celebrate Recovery. And I personally believe, and the makers of Celebrate Recovery, the creators, also believe that both are important. What is one of the main reasons? I've mentioned earlier that my sponsor suddenly had a heart attack. So suddenly she was not available. And I've got to say, my accountability partners, I have had several, and they have been amazing. When I had no sponsor, and in between when I had no sponsor, they held me up. They were there for me when I needed something. Accountability partners are just as valid. I just want to say that. This is a game called recovery. It's not really a game, but if it was, accountability partner is your teammate. They encourage you. Sponsor is your coach. I'd recommend you have both. In closing, tonight we learned how we need a sponsor because they are a secret weapon to success in our recovery. Because having one is biblical, they're a key part of our program, and they can help us prevent relapse. We explored the qualities to look for in a sponsor, the role of a sponsor, how to find a sponsor, and the differences between a sponsor and an accountability partner. A sponsor helps us through the 12 steps because they've been through them before, and they can help us to be successful. Luke couldn't become a Jedi without Yoda. The Karate Kid wouldn't have won any trophies or any tournaments without Mr. Miyagi. And we can't make it through the 12 steps without a sponsor and an accountability partner. If you have a sponsor but you've been out of touch, give them a call, shoot them a text. And if you don't got one, get one, because it's time to bring out the secret weapon. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the sponsors that have gone before us, that have given their time, week in, week out, whatever amount of time they've given us. Thank you. Thank you for people that have given back. Father, I pray for those of us that are sponsors, just that we would reflect on how we sponsor, our qualities, our character. And for those looking for a sponsor, God, I pray that you would help them, just lead them to the right person for them, just like you did for me. Thank you, Jesus, for the 12 steps, for sponsors and accountability partners and community. It's in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Santa Cruz Celebrate Recovery meets every Friday night at 7 p.m. We're located at Christian Life Center, 1009 Mission Street in Santa Cruz, California. If you live near Santa Cruz or just visiting the area, we warmly invite you to attend. To learn more, you can visit our page on Christian Life Center's website at clcsantacruz.org/celebrate-recovery. We hope this video has been encouraging to you, and thank you for watching.